Hey everyone, and welcome to a deep dive into what the future holds for talent. We're going to be exploring the top trends that are shaping the landscape in 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting ride, you know?
I know. I've been looking over all this research, and I can't wait to dig into this stuff with you.
Me too.
Okay, so we've got some awesome insights from experts all around the globe, over 40 interviews, and a huge survey of like 400 talent pros.
Wow.
And the coolest part is this overarching theme that keeps popping up, this idea of progress over perfection.
That's huge, right? It's like we're moving away from needing everything to be perfect
Yeah.
and just embracing this power of experimenting and learning as we go.
I think it's about action, right? Like not being so scared to fail and just going for it.
Totally.
But what's that really look like when you're trying to actually do that?
Well, let's kick things off with a trend that's been causing a stir for a while now, AI and talent acquisition. Remember all that hype about AI being the ultimate solution for hiring?
Oh yeah, for sure. AI was going to find all the perfect candidates and get rid of bias, and recruiters were all going to be at a job.
Right. There was like this huge rush to use AI tools, but
Yeah.
companies are starting to realize that it's not some magic bullet.
Huh.
Like you can't just plug it in and suddenly everything's perfect,
Yeah.
We're seeing some limitations, especially when it comes to strategic decisions that need you to really get human behavior and potential.
Hmm. So you're saying it's not that easy to just feed data to some algorithm and bam, the perfect candidate appears.
Nope, not really. Things like pinpointing those critical talent gaps or seeing potential that goes beyond a resume, that's where AI still has a way to go. It's all about nuance and context, stuff that machines haven't quite figured out yet.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You can't just program human intuition, I guess. From what you've seen working with companies, what are some of the biggest challenges they're hitting with AI in hiring?
One of the biggest ones is like leaning way too hard on AI for major decisions. Some companies are just so gung-ho about automating everything that they're letting algorithms make choices that really need a human touch. And that can lead to some big missed opportunities, especially when you're talking about diverse talent.
Because AI can still have bias if it wasn't set up right or if someone's not keeping a close eye on it, right?
Absolutely. If the data that was used to train these AI systems is messed up, then the results are going to be messed up too.
Uh-huh.
And we're seeing a lot of worry about algorithmic bias sneaking into hiring, which could mean qualified people get rejected based on stuff that shouldn't even matter.
Wow, that's scary. So it's a tough balancing act then, right? Because AI does have the potential to streamline some parts of hiring, but we can't just forget about the human side of it all.
100%. I think the key is being smart about AI, not just using it without thinking. Like, AI can be awesome for those boring, repetitive tasks that recruiters hate, like going through tons of resumes, setting up interviews, even sending personalized messages to candidates.
So you're saying AI can actually make the whole candidate experience better by letting recruiters focus on actually building relationships and really figuring out what each person brings to the table.
Exactly. It's about human and AI teaming up and using the best parts of both. And that leads us right into another super important trend for 2025, this big focus on critical skills.
All right, let's talk about that. We hear a lot about skills these days, but what exactly do people mean when they say critical skills?
It's about zeroing in on those must-have skills that are going to be crucial for success in 2025 and beyond.
Okay.
We're talking things like communication, leadership, problem solving, and obviously technical skills that are specific to different fields. But the real tricky part is figuring out what those skills are and how to even measure them when everything is changing so fast.
Yeah, you're right. What we think of as a critical skill today could be totally different in just a couple of years. So how are companies supposed to know what those essential skills even are?
It all comes down to having a strategic plan. Organizations got to look at their long-term goals, right? Right.
And figure out which roles are absolutely crucial for driving innovation and changing the game. Then they need to break down those roles into the exact skills that people need to succeed.
So it's kind of like reverse engineering a job description. You figure out the skills first and then build the role around those skills.
You got it.
What about the skills people already have? How does that fit in?
That's where this shift towards skills-based hiring comes in. It's about ditching those old school credentials and actually focusing on what candidates can do. This means evaluating skills through assessments, projects, actually seeing them do stuff, rather than just depending on resumes and degrees.
So you're saying it's like moving from I've got a degree in this to I can actually do that, which is a huge shift for a lot of companies.
It is a big change, and it needs a whole new way of thinking. But the good part is that you end up with a workforce that's got more skills, they can adapt faster, and are ready for whatever comes next. And that's where our next trend jumps in, the massive role of learning and development. Let's dive into that.
Yeah.
I mean, L&D is way more than just a buzzword now, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be super important for keeping up in this talent world that's constantly changing.
You're right on the money.
Right.
L&D is not just a nice little bonus anymore. It's like a must-have strategy for any company that wants to attract and keep top talent.
Hmm.
We're seeing this really strong connection between companies that have awesome L&D programs and how well they keep their employees.
That makes total sense. If a company is investing in you and helping you grow, you're going to feel more appreciated and want to stay there, right?
For sure. But the big question is, what does really good L&D look like in 2025?
Yeah.
Are we just talking about online courses and workshops, or is there something more to it?
Yeah.
It's way more than that. All those traditional L&D methods are being shaken up by tons of new ideas.
Okay.
We're seeing companies trying out virtual reality, gamification,
Yeah.
coaching powered by AI, and personalized learning paths that actually fit with what each person wants and needs.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's almost like L&D is becoming more fun and interesting, not just about checking boxes off a list.
Exactly. And it's not just about getting new skills. It's about building this culture where everyone's always learning, trying new things, taking risks, and embracing challenges.
Sounds like a recipe for a team that's super engaged and ready to adapt. But how are companies actually putting this into practice? What are they doing to make L&D a core part of their talent strategy?
One big change we're seeing is this focus on internal mobility. Companies are realizing that they've got awesome talent right there in their own teams, and they're creating clear career paths so people can grow and develop without having to jump ship to a different company.
So it's like promoting from within and giving people chances to learn new skills and move up without having to go somewhere else.
Exactly. And that goes hand in hand with another important strategy, reverse mentoring.
Okay, reverse mentoring. That sounds pretty interesting. What's that all about?
It's like flipping the script on how mentoring usually works. Instead of senior leaders being the mentors to those who are newer, you have the younger employees sharing what they know with the leadership team.
I love that. It's such a smart way to bridge that gap between generations, share knowledge, and keep the leaders in the loop about the latest trends and tech stuff.
Totally. And it builds this super dynamic learning environment where everyone wins.
This is awesome stuff.
Yeah.
It seems like L&D is becoming like the foundation of a successful talent strategy in 2025. But we've got another big trend to unpack, the changing employee value proposition, right?
Yep. The EVP, it's not just about salary and perks anymore. It's about creating this whole experience that attracts and keeps great talent when everyone's competing for the best people.
Okay, let's dig into that more in part 2 of our deep dive. Okay, so we're back and ready to tackle this employee value proposition thing, this EVP. You were saying it's not just about salary and all those perks anymore. So what are we really talking about?
It's all about understanding, what really matters to people looking for jobs these days.
Right.
They're way more savvy than they used to be.
For sure.
They're doing their homework, checking out reviews, talking to people they know, and they can sniff out a phony promise from a mile away.
So it's all about authenticity, right?
Yeah.
Actually doing what you say you're going to do.
Exactly. Companies can't just throw out some fancy slogans and then not follow through. They got to walk the walk. And that's where company culture comes in big time.
Okay.
We're seeing a big push to make sure the EVP matches the company's core values and what they're all about.
Because if your culture's a mess or it doesn't match what you're saying, candidates are going to see right through that, aren't they?
Totally. They're going to hear it from people who work there or used to work there. They'll read between the lines of those online reviews and figure out pretty quickly if the image the company is projecting isn't the real deal.
So it's almost like a brand authenticity crisis hitting the talent market. What can companies do to avoid that trap?
It all starts with knowing your audience. Who are you trying to reach? What are their values? What are they looking for? What kind of career goals do they have? That old one-size-fits-all EVP just doesn't work anymore.
It's like tailoring your message so it really connects with specific types of talent, right?
Exactly. Just like you wouldn't use the same marketing campaign to try to reach everyone.
Right, right.
And it's not just about salary and benefits anymore, although those are still important.
Sure.
It's about showing off what makes your company's culture unique, highlighting those opportunities for growth and development, and emphasizing the impact employees can have.
It's about painting a real picture of what it's like to work at your company.
Right.
Right, but making it compelling too. But how do you get that message out there?
Employee stories are super powerful.
Hmm?
Let your people share their own experiences, their successes, what they love about working there in their own words.
Because those real stories are way more believable and relatable than some corporate marketing spiel, right?
Right. For sure. And don't be afraid to let your company's personality shine through. Highlight those things that make you different, celebrate your wins, and let candidates see that human side of the company.
So it's all about being genuine, being real,
Yeah.
which is more important now than ever, right?
Totally. And that brings us to another super important part of the EVP for 2025, flexibility. It's not just a nice perk anymore, it's what people expect.
That's a big one, especially with so many companies having to figure out remote work during the pandemic. But when we say flexibility in terms of the EVP, what does that actually mean?
It's about breaking free from that old idea that everyone has to be in the office all the time.
Okay.
It's about offering different ways to work, different schedules, and even different places to work. It's about giving employees the power to work in ways that fit their own lives and needs.
So we're talking hybrid work, working from home, flexible hours, the whole 9 yards.
Yep. And it's not just about making things convenient for people. It's about creating a workplace that's fair and inclusive. Flexibility helps people balance their work life and their personal life better, which means they're more productive, more engaged, and just happier.
It sounds like a win-win for both the employees and the companies, right?
Right.
But I'm guessing there are some challenges to putting these flexible work models into practice, right? Like keeping communication flowing, making sure people still work together, and keeping that company culture alive.
You're right, it takes a different way of thinking. Companies have to build a culture of trust where people are accountable for their work. Leaders need to learn how to manage teams when everyone's not in the same place. And companies need to invest in the tech tools that make communication and collaboration smooth and easy.
So it's not as simple as just saying, okay, everyone, work from home now. It's about creating a whole new way of working that works for everyone, both individuals and the company as a whole.
Exactly. And that takes us to our final trend for 2025, the rise of what we call hybrid 360.
Hybrid 360. I like the sound of that. Tell me more.
It's like taking hybrid work and turning it up to the max. It's not just about where people work, but how they work, when they work, and who they work with.
So it's like a more holistic approach to flexibility, covering everything about the work experience.
Precisely. It's about creating a work environment that truly adapts to the needs of a diverse workforce. It's about giving employees the freedom to design their own workdays, choose who they collaborate with, and contribute their skills in a way that maximizes their impact and well-being.
That sounds incredible. But how does this actually play out in the real world? Can you give me some examples of what Hybrid 360 might look like?
Sure. Imagine a company where employees can decide where they want to work from, whether it's the office, their home, a co-working space, or even a coffee shop.
Okay.
They set their own hours, work when they're most productive, whether that's early in the morning, late at night, or a mix of both.
So it's all about giving people the freedom to create their perfect workday.
Exactly. And it goes way beyond just time and location. Hybrid 360 is also about having flexible teams where people can choose to work on projects and with colleagues that match their interests and skills.
So it's about breaking down those walls between departments and building a more fluid and adaptable workforce.
You got it. And it's about empowering employees to take charge of their careers, to keep learning and growing, and to contribute their unique talents in ways that are both fulfilling and make a difference.
This is all so exciting. It feels like we're on the verge of a massive shift in the way we work. But are there any challenges or potential downsides to all this flexibility?
Of course, Hybrid 360 requires a high level of trust, super clear communication, and a strong focus on results, not just how many hours people put in. Leaders need to know how to manage teams that are spread out, and companies need to invest in the right technology so everyone can collaborate and communicate effectively.
It's about creating a culture that embraces flexibility while also making sure people are accountable and everyone feels connected and supported, right?
Exactly. And that's where that main theme we've been talking about comes back into play. Progress over perfection.
Because it's not about getting everything perfect on the first try.
Right.
It's about experimenting, learning, and tweaking things along the way to create a work environment that actually works for everyone.
Precisely. And that leads us perfectly into the final part of our deep dive, where we're going to explore some key takeaways and actionable insights to help our listeners navigate these exciting trends and shape their own future of work.
All right, let's wrap things up and head over to part 3. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into the future of talent. We've covered a lot of ground from AI, and all its challenges to that hybrid 360 concept. So what does it all mean? What are those big takeaways that our listeners should be thinking about as we head into 2025?
Well, if I had to boil it all down to one main idea, it would be this. The future of work is human.
Hmm, I like that. It's not about technology taking over, it's about technology giving people the tools to do their absolute best.
Exactly. And that idea shows up in everything we've talked about. Whether it's AI handling those boring tasks so recruiters can really connect with people, or Hybrid 360 giving employees the flexibility to create a workday that works for them, it's all about putting people first.
It's about realizing that people are the heart of any company. If you invest in them, support them, and give them the power to do their thing, they'll make you successful.
Absolutely. So let's get practical. We've talked about these big trends, but what can our listeners actually do right now in their own jobs or companies to get ready for this future of work?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Where do we even start?
Well, the first thing is to really get on board with this idea of progress over perfection. Don't get stuck trying to make the perfect plan or use every new tech gadget out there all at once. Start small, try things out, and learn along the way.
It's about actually doing something, even if it's not perfect. Really.
Exactly. And don't be scared to mess up. Making mistakes is just a chance to learn and make things better.
So give us an example. What's something our listeners could do this week to start putting this into practice?
Okay, let's say you're leading a team and you're thinking about trying out some more flexible work arrangements. The first thing you got to do is talk to your team. Find out what they need and what they prefer. Then try out different approaches. Maybe do a test run where everyone can work from home a couple of days a week.
And then you see how it goes, what works, what doesn't, and make changes as you go.
You got it. It's all about trying things out and adapting. And remember, communication is key. Keep talking to your team throughout the whole process.
That's great advice. And it applies to all these trends we've been discussing, whether it's trying out AI tools, implementing that skills-based hiring, or revamping your learning and development programs. It's all about taking that first step and being open to learning as you go.
Totally. And don't be afraid to ask for help. There are so many amazing organizations, communities, and people out there who are happy to share what they know and help you navigate this new world of work.
It's about staying curious, staying connected, and being open to new possibilities.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with this. The future of work is in our hands. It's up to each of us to embrace these trends, shake things up, and create a work environment that puts people first and is ready for whatever the future brings.
That's an awesome message. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the future of talent. We hope you've learned a thing or two and are feeling inspired to shape your own future of work. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep pushing the limits of what's possible.